This is the second episode of Oniething and Awthing. In it, I'm going to be telling you a bit about the River Dee and the Brigs that cross it. The River Dee is 87 miles long, making it the 5th longest river in Scotland. From its source, at a height of about 1200 metres up on Bray Reach, to the river's mouth at Aberdeen Harbour in the North Sea, the Dee passes through villages, towns, and some of the bonniest scenery in Scotland. When you look at the Dee on a map, you'll see that all the villages and towns are on the north side, bar one. The only een that's nae is Braemar. Anybody that bides in other places along the south side of the Dee that's needing to win in about till the things you only find in a village or town is going to need a way to cross. There used to be wee ferries along the Dee, boaties to take folk and beasts back and forth, but they're all awa now. Brigs are things that nobody thinks anything about till something goes wrong with them. In this episode of Oniething and Awthing, we're going to look at the Brigs that cross the Dee. We'll see far that are, who all that are, Photed and biggit, and mair. There's 26 Brigs altogether that you can cross. The first brig ower the Dee, only about 3-4 kilometres downstream from the source, is the Ower brig. This is one of the newest brigs, biggit in 1959, for the good of walkers making their way to the Ower bothy. The bothy itself was biggit in 1877 as a place for deer stalkers to bide in, though that came to an end around 1920. The brig in the Photies is nae the first brig ower to the bothy, though some of the earlier ains had been gey shugly. This stronger and sturdier ain from 1959 was designed by Dr. George Taylor for the University of Aberdeen and paid for by the Nature Conservancy Council. The materials had to be brought in by helicopter. The White brig is on the Mar Lodge estate, about 5 kilometres up a dirt road for the Linna Dee, with only estate traffic allowed. They cry it the White brig, though I canna tell you when last it was white. It's a short distance upstream before the Geldie Burn joins the Dee. It michtna look that way, but the brig marks an important part of the wise. Cross the brig and the road takes you round to the south and down to Perthshire through Glentilt. When you dinna cross the brig and you head to the north side of the Dee, the path takes you round to the north, past the Ower brig we saw afore, and up to Speyside through the Larry Grew. The next brig on our way downstream is the first een that carries ony public road, the Linna Dee brig joining Allanaquoich with Inverroy and Braemar. The brig is an impressive een, nae just for its design, but for far it is. The bra architecture is Gothic, with parapets and an arch. The brig sits ower a deep Carnan Heuch, and you canna but wonder how many millions of years the water took to curn and cut its way down into the Stein. The brig was opened in 1857. It's nae the first brig ower the Dee at this spot. There had been other eens afore it, wooden eens that could be washed awa when the river was in spate. You can easily see the need for something more solid. This brig's more formal name is the Victoria brig, so we shouldn't confuse it with the other een of that same name in Aberdeen. It lies about 4 kilometres downstream for the Linna Dee. Eens the river winds free for the steep sides of the Heuch, it widens out and wanders back and forth over a wide haugh. The brig carries a private road joining the Mar Lodge estate with the public road at Inverroy. It was biggit in 1905, again instead of an other wooden brig, on the orders of the estate's tenant at the time, the Duke of Leeds. At the end, for the brig joins the public road, there's a housie for the brig keeper. It's maybe a surprise that there's nae brig ower the Dee in Braemar, the way there is in Ballater, or Abine, or Banchory. Our next brig is the Invercald brig, about 5 kilometres downstream from Braemar, and it carries the A93, the main road to Aberdeen. The Invercargill brig was biggit in 1859. There's an ower brig that's still standing, een that will come till yet. The need for the new een was that Queen Victoria had bought Balmoral Castle in 1852, and the old brig was bringing traffic a 30 hour close to it. Prince Albert paid for the new brig. It's made for steam and has 3 arches in the D, as well as sma' eens on the bunks for fishermen to pass aneath. You'll mind I said the Invercargill brig was biggit to tuck the place of an other een nae far awa'. This is it. You can even see them fae and another. After the 1745 rebellion, that is, atween 1749 and 1754, the British Army made a new road to join Fort Augustus on the Moray Firth with Blairgowrie in Angus. This brig was part of that road, and it was the best een along its length. It has 6 spans of masonry, though they're nae a' the same size. Both sides of the brig have muckle triangle-shaped cutwaters jutting out into the river. You'll mind that this brig was bypassed in 1859. It became part of the private Balmoral estate, though Historic Scotland maintains it, and it's aye open to walkers and to cyclists. Warneast Brig lies about a kilometre downstream fae the twa Invercargill road brigs. It's the first of 4 suspension brigs on Upper Deeside, and we'll come to the other eens yet. It's a metal fit brig, and it joins the A93, the North Deeside Road, with the Balmoral estate on the south bank. The brig is private, with a lock yet at the north end. The plaque dates the brig to 1924. It's kent by 2-3 other names, the like of the Ballachbuie brig and the Garaval Shield brig. It's about 55 metres long, and it looks gey like the Poholic brig further downstream that will come till soon. This brig is right outside the gates of Balmoral Castle, and it come about through Queen Victoria buying the place. The other suspension brig, a short way downstream, wasna sturdy enough for her liking, so this new brig was biggit in 1857. Again, Prince Albert paid for it. The engineer was Isambard Kingdom Brunel, nae less. The brig tucks an hour to the village of Crathy, for the North Deeside Road passes through. The southern end of the brig is the end of the South Deeside Road. The brig is made fae girders and boards with a tarmac surface on the road deck. In the hinner end, seemingly the Royals didna like the look of it, and would rather hae something a bit mair fantouche. For a' that, the brig is there yet, and is open to a' traffic. This brig is only about 500 metres downstream fae the new arena right outside Balmoral Castle. Ownership lies with the Balmoral estate nowadays. When it was opened in 1834, it was meant for traffic of a' sorts, though nowadays there's yachts at both ends, and it's only open to walkers and cyclists. It's a suspension brig with just 1 span, and that's 42 metres long. The designer was John Justice Jr., een of a family of blacksmiths fae Dundee. At its south end, the brig joins with the South Deeside Road. At its north end, it joins with a local road tucking you into Crathy, to the Kirk and the Squeal. This is a suspension brig, and a fit brig that was only ever meant to be a fit brig. It lies about a kilometre east fae Brigagarn outside Ballater. There'd been a ferry at this site afore, but there was a drowning here. Alexander Gordon, a businessman that had been brought up local, paid for the brig to be biggit in 1892. Poholic brig was een of a current of brigs that were damaged when Stormfront hit Scotland in 2015. It wasn't the first time the brig had been damaged. In 1942, a bomber aircraft crash landed on it. After Stormfront, the brig was closed for repairs almost till the end of 2018. Even now, it's a bit shugly, and there's a notice saying there hasn't to be more nor 4 folk on the brig at the same time. This brig is een of the brigs ower the Dee that are on the 7 Brigs Trail. The brig lies about a kilometre down a private road off the North Deeside Road, so most of the folk crossing are folk walking the trail. Balliter is the first place at ony size on our way down the Dee. The town is nae o' that all. It was developed in the late 18th century and the brig is from 1885, though there have been 3 other brigs there afore. Een of the Aller brigs was designed by Thomas Telford and biggit in 1809. That een fell victim to the muckle spate at 1829. The town grew on the popularity of the walls of Penanich on the other side of the Dee, and there had to be a brig for folk to cross back and forth. When the Deeside Railway was brought out to Balliter in 1866, there was even more need for a brig, for folk on the southern side with a train to catch. The newest brig was paid for by the County Road Trustees. It lies on the southern outskirts of the town and carries the B971 public road. It's the other een of the 2 brigs ower the Dee that are on the 7 Brigs Trail. This brig lies about 5 kilometres downstream from Balliter. It's a fit brig, a suspension brig, and another een that Alexander Gordon paid for. Truth be told, his estate paid for it, seeing as Gordon himself died in 1895 and the brig wasna biggit for another 10 years. There had been a station near Han from 1876 on, and the station and the brig served in another, or the station was closed in 1966 along with the lay of the line. Nowadays, the Deeside Way is a walking path that follows the route of the All Railway, and it passes the northern end of the brig. There's parking nae far awa, and a hotel and restaurant forby, so this brig is een we nae want a visitors. The Cambus May brig is another een that Storm Frank did its damage till in 2015. The brig didn't open again till the spring of 2021. This is een of the newer brigs along the Dee. It was biggit in 1935 and it's a cantilever brig made for reinforced concrete. It's downstream from Balliter, about halfway to Abine. It carries the B915 road over the river, joining the village of Dinnet with South Deeside. In 1935, Dinnet had a station and a post office. Nae ony mair, though the hotel and the garage are aye there. Folk say the country round about is bonny. You'll ken yoursel if you think the same way about the brig. Abine is the second place at ony size on our way down the Dee. It's an all settlement, and archaeology tells us there were folk here as long syne as the 8th century. The brig is on the southern outskirts of the town and joins Abine with Burse and Glentanner on the south side of the river. The brig itself is another een made in the 1930s for reinforced concrete. It carries road B968. The brig sits in a hach and was another een that Storm Frank damaged late in 2015. The month after, the council had to close the brig for 5 days for repairs. You could easily think that Petarch is a gey unca place to put a brig. There's gey near nothing on the north side, and all there was on the south side was a small hotel, and even the hotel is nae a hotel ony mair. You'll ken fit important the brig is for the age o't. It was biggit in 1814 and the engineer was Thomas Telford nae less. Like the all Invercalled brig that we saw earlier, this brig was biggit to carry a military road, the een from Edinburgh to Fochabers and syne on to Fort George. Still, and on, local folk had been needing a brig for a long time afore that. Nowadays, the brig carries road B993 to its junction with the North Deeside Road. It's that near the junction that if a long larry stops to get out at the junction, its back half can easy still be blocking the brig. Banchory is the biggest place we pass through on our way down the Dee, bar Aberdeen itself. The earliest archaeology shows folk were biding here 2,000–3,000 years syne, though the growth carries on to this day, and especially in the period after 1970. The brig is another ane on the southern outskirts of the town it serves, and it joins Banchory with the B97 whaur that heads south to the Cairnmount and on to the Mearns. Other communities nearer home that need the brig for coming and going to Banchory are Strahan and Birse. The brig was biggit in stages, and the latest ane was in 1983 when it was widened to carry 2 lanes of traffic. A good mony folk would cry this ane the Crathis brig, after the habit of using the name of the community on the northern side, though the official name is the Durris brig, after the area to the south. The brig doesn't just serve the 2 communities on ilka side though. The brig is about 4 kilometres down the Dee fae Banchory, and ony traffic coming over the slug road fae Steenhive and heen for Banchory will cross the Dee here. This is ane of the newer brigs over the Dee. It was biggit in 1977, so there'd been another brig here afore, ane that was biggit in 1862. You can aye see ane of the All Brigs columns in the middle of the river, and a section of the All Road till it among the trees on the south bank. This is ane of the Allar brigs, biggit in 1854. Park railway station had opened the year afore, and the Deeside Railway paid for the brig so's folk could get in about to the station easier. There was a toll to pay for crossing until 1962, just 4 years afore the line closed. In 1971 the brig was made a Category A listed biggin. The brig is made fae 2 cast iron arches, both of them 37 metres long, though the deck is made fae wood. There's a question mark hanging over this brig. Early in 2019 the council had to close it to motor traffic after defects were found in it. For now, we can aye walk or cycle across. With nae motor traffic, it's a rare place for a bit peace and quiet and bonny views on a bonny morning. This brig joins Mary Cooter in Multimber, carrying road B979. It hasna the importance it eens had. Afore the Aberdeen bypass was biggit, traffic fae Steenhive Way and heading for Peter Cooter and further up Deeside would have come over this brig. Now it carries mostly local traffic. For a time there had been spick of the bypass crossing the Dee at this very spot, so in the hinner end the bypass got its ain brig a short distance downstream. The Mary Cooter brig was biggit in 1895, although a new deck was put on it in the 1980s as part of the work of straightening and levelling the road up the brae to Multimber. This is the newest ane of our brigs over the Dee. Aberdeen had been crying out for a bypass for decades, but the road and the brig opened only in 2018 after a long fecht in the courts. The bypass runs fae Steenhive to Blackdog and saves traffic fae hinting through Aberdeen on the All Ring Road Anderson Drive. This is the first of our brigs that carries 4 lanes of traffic, and the only ane for the speed limit is 70 mile an hour. You canna walk across. It's 270 metres long, is made fae reinforced concrete with our 30,000 tonne of concrete and our 3,000 tonne of steel. The height of the deck is 13 metres above the water. Following the newest brig over the Dee, this is the Oniething. The brig was biggit in the 1520s, meaning that it'll seen be 500 year old. The brig isna the same nowadays as when it was first opened, nae least in that it was widened in 1642. It was Aberdeen's only brig across the Dee until 1830, when the Wellington suspension brig was opened. The brig is made fae 7 stone arches up to 17 metres long. Even with later work that was done, plenty of the original design is aye there, the like of the piers and the stone carvings. The brig is nae suited to modern traffic, for a' that it lies on the main road into Aberdeen fae the south. HGVs and onything wider na 2 metres is sent to this brig downstream the King George VI brig. Things have eased in the time the bypass has been open. This far more modern brig joins Aberdeen with the district of Kincorth, that was biggit mostly as a council scheme for a plan drawn up in the late 1930s. The brig itself was opened in 1941 and it's a Category B listed biggin. It has 4 arches and it's made from granite and reinforced concrete. The brig is decorated with 8 heraldic crests along its length, carved in Aberdeen granite. After the bypass, it's seen a 2 brigs that carry 4 lanes of traffic, though the speed limit is 30 mile an hour and nae 70. HGVs and other heavy loads are sent down to this end instead of crossing the Brigade. This is the other end of our brigs that you canna cross on foot. The railway brig was biggit in 1848 as part of the Aberdeen Railway between Aberdeen in the north and Forfar and Arbroath in the south. The first trains run in 1850. At one time the end of the line was at Ferry Hill, a fair way fae far Aberdeen station is nowadays. Now, as then, the brig carries trains heading south for Aberdeen, heading for Glasgow, Edinburgh and London, and back to Aberdeen for those places. The brig crosses the river Sklintywise, about a kilometre downstream for the George VI brig. It's made for iron girders standing on granite and sandstone piers. It has 7 main arches, elkine of them about 17 metres long. When this brig was biggit, it was made for a' traffic, but now it's just for walkers and cyclists. Other traffic gangs over the new Queen Elizabeth brig just downstream. A new road had been laid for Aberdeen to Stainhive in 1799, and the Wellington brig was biggit as part of the Ower development. There was a ferry on the same spot afore that had been cried the Craiglog ferry, and some folk cried the new brig the Craiglog brig. For a long time there was a toll to cross the brig, so that had ended in 1964, and the toll house was knocked down that year. The brig was closed to motor traffic in 1984 after the Queen Elizabeth brig was opened. It was closed altogether between 2002 and 2008 while repairs was going on, though it's open to walkers and cyclists again now. The brig is a suspension brig 67 metres long. This is een of the newest of our brigs, nae even 40 year old, and it's the last of our 4-lane brigs. It was biggit in the early 1980s to take motor traffic away for the 19th century Wellington suspension brig just a short way upstream. It's a gay normal concrete brig with 3 spans. It joins the middle of Aberdeen with one of the main roads to and fae the south, the A956. The Victoria brig joins Torry to the middle of Aberdeen. Torry is an old fisher community, and it was once a royal borough in its own right. It was brought in by the city of Aberdeen only in 1891. The brig had been biggit some years afore that in 1887, after there had been a ferry disaster and 32 folk, I'll say again 32 folk, were killed. The brig joins road A956 with the end of Victoria Road, the main road through the middle of Torry. The brig itself crosses the Dee with 5 arches made for stone and a parapet made for polished granite. This takes us to the end of our journey down the Dee, fae Carower to Torry, Ayont the Victoria Brig, a' that's left is Aberdeen Harbour and syne the North Sea. I hope you've enjoyed this and maybe learnt a thing or twa. This has been the second episode at Oniething and Awthing. There could be another een at ony time. I canna tell you when that's going to be, but like this een, it'll be about Oniething and Awthing.